it looks like right now, at least, that Congress, that Senate, I mean, they're technically still working today. Last night, there were like 60 of them left in town. But this idea of getting a deal on this $111 billion, Israel-Ukraine package does not look like it's going to come together before the end of the year. It's interesting to me. I've been asked this all the time. Shouldn't we support Ukraine? Shouldn't we be doing this? My view is the Biden administration has known about this for a long time. They just became engaged a few days ago. The idea that this is somehow someone else's problem, they knew this was going to be a problem. But secondly, they know the border is a problem. And the idea that we're having to trade securing our border for helping out Ukraine seems kind of silly to me. This should be a priority for them. But I think if Republicans let it go, meaning that they acquiesce to the foreign funding, they're never going to get a deal on securing our own country.
Well, I agree with you. And I also think it helps Republicans for this to happen after Christmas, because these guys go home to their constituents who are really focused on the border. Even the Democratic constituents will be complaining about it. So it does help Republicans to go home, not do a deal before Christmas, and then come back. I do support Ukraine funding and Israel funding, but also we got to secure the border before we fund other countries. And if Joe Biden will cave in our direction, then yeah, I would take the deal. I would say this as well, though. And this goes, if you remember, even the D.C. crime bill that Biden said he was going to veto, and then he wound up signing and threw the House Democrats under the bus. He has the worst congressional liaison team I've ever seen. It's like they never even talk to the Democrats in Congress. They never see the train coming until suddenly they're getting run over by it.
It is amazing. And I think you're right. These guys go home, they start hearing from constituents. And by the way, I get this like, woe is me thing. I want Ukraine to succeed. I want to stop Russia. I want to stop Putin. But the answer yesterday from the White House is we're down to our last billion.
Oh, darn.
I mean, I'm sorry. You're down to your last billion. Like, I don't even know how to spend that. And I'm sure weapons aren't cheap, but that's not exactly the smartest message to be telling the American taxpayer right now. We're down to our last billion. We don't know where we're going to find the other millions that we need. I'm looking at him going, if it's that dire, that's not really the smartest way to sell this.
No, they've had a terrible message the entire time for him to come out. I guess it was last week. He finally held a press conference where he addressed the issue. I don't understand how this White House plans out their strategies. You're down to your last billion. Americans have Christmas presents to buy and milk. They're down to their last dollar, and you're going to complain. It's a tone deaf message.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, this gets back to what we started talking about at the beginning. They don't get it. And when you talk about whether it's the economy or the border, to sit down and say, guys, we need to help Ukraine because we're down to our last billion. And you're absolutely right. People are out there still struggling. They're trying to figure out around the holidays how to take care of maybe a friend or a coworker or a family member they want to do something for, and they're trying to piece it together. And you're hearing the White House say, yeah, the southern border is getting overrun. We've got a record number today. But gosh, we need to send we need $111 billion to send overseas. And by the way, we're down to our last billion. It sounds so ridiculously tone deaf. I agree with you. I don't know who their legislative staff is. I don't know who their comms team is. I mean, I feel like maybe they're getting their cues from Kamala Harris.
They probably are at this point. I mean, they're letting her run point on all of these issues, and they keep being a disaster. That should probably tell the White House something. I really do sit back as someone who's been in politics for a while, seen the way these shops work, the lack of being able to message anything coherently, and the lack of being able to coordinate with your members of Congress on anything is baffling. This White House is headed into a presidential election where the message is bad, the polling is bad, the underlying data for the voters is bad, and they don't seem to have any clue how to fix it, let alone message it.